Well, school helps children to learn and to adapt to social situations and form networks of friendships. But it's also a formative time to explore emotions and thoughts and learn about life. But imagine being diagnosed with various mental health conditions on top of having to deal with the usual growing pains.
Well, that's exactly what the main character in a young adult's book called Peta Lyre's Rating Normal has to contend with. The author, Anna Whateley, joins us now via Skype. Anna, it is lovely to speak with you. Now, the main character, Peta, is described, and I'm quoting here from the novel itself, as having so many letters that she could start her own alphabet. I love it. She's diagnosed with ADHD, ASD, SPD, and it makes her neurodivergent. I think a lot of people aren't familiar with that term. What is it?
Okay, so neurodivergent as a term came around about 20 years ago. It's not a medical diagnosis, it's a way to collect those letters, to put that alphabet together in a way. And it comes from neurodiversity, like we have biodiversity and we have diverse, as humans, there's a diversity in our neurocognitive abilities. And so, but we can't be neurodiverse, but we could be neurodivergent from the norm. And by having that term, it gave us something to identify with as a group of people. And it also allowed us to ditch the disorder that always comes along on the end of those letters. So yeah, that's sort of how the word's used. And Judy Singer, is, I should acknowledge, was the person who first used it.
Now, just back to the book, and I really like the way you write it with the dialogue between the characters, but you also write Peta's internal voice dictating how to act normal. She's, of course, on the spectrum here. I found it exhausting as a reader, reading her dialogue and then reading her internal dialogue as well. Is that a true reflection of what it's like being on the spectrum?
Yeah, so she's autistic and has ADHD, and so there's a lot of energy that goes behind the way she thinks, and it's the way I think. And I didn't know that everybody didn't think that way, to be perfectly honest. So she does hear those rules, and you see them play out in every conversation, in every interaction, the way she should be. Like right now, I'd be thinking, don't lean too far forward, too far back, make sure you're polite, try and use their names, Fauzia and Joe, and their beautiful names, and all those things will be going on in the back of your head at the same time as holding a conversation.
Yes.
So it can be tiring, yeah.
Very tiring, very exhausting. And of course, you touched on the subject there that you were diagnosed quite late in life, weren't you? How significant was that for you, to be able to put a label to it?
It meant everything. And I know labels get a bad rap, but in a way there are access to services and community. So when I was 38, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and with that diagnosis came medication and help. And for the first time, I had the ability to pause before I spoke, or to just feel the way that I think neurotypical people must feel when it comes to doing chores and basic things. And then, so then it was only last year I was diagnosed as autistic through the process of writing Peta Lyre.
Right.
Yep.
Wow, that is amazing. Now, what would you say to parents who may be witnessing their own children going through the same sort of growing pains and challenges that Peta Lyre is facing in the book?
I would say try to develop a sense of understanding about what it's like, so that you can understand where things come from. So often we see the outward behaviours as tantrums, meltdowns, and then to understand where that comes from will mean that you can figure out how to stop it happening again, or how to comfort that person, because everyone is comforted in a different way. Not everyone likes a hug. So just trying to develop that understanding, but also learn how to communicate with them. And everyone communicates differently. And if you can figure out the key to communicating with your child, then that's how you move forward. And it may not be the typical way.
Certainly very wise words. Anna, it is great getting